The sun was beginning its gentle descent, painting the sky in hues of soft amber and lavender, casting a warm glow over the sleepy coastal town of Seaborne Cove. It was the kind of evening that whispered promises of serenity and adventure, intertwined, a perfect time for those who sought solace in the simple act of wandering. In a quaint, weather-beaten cottage perched just 3 blocks from the ocean's edge lived Illyra Finn, a young woman whose soul was as restless as the sea breeze that danced through her window every morning. She had inherited the cottage from her grandmother, a woman known in the town for her tales of far-off lands and magical walks taken along hidden paths. Illyra often wondered if her grandmother's stories were just fanciful fabrications, but something in her heart urged her to believe otherwise. Tonight was special. It wasn't just another warm summer afternoon, it was the first evening of the Festival of Tides, a centuries-old celebration marking the harmony between land and sea. Lanterns would soon flicker to life along the boardwalk, and townsfolk would gather to share stories, laughter, and music. But before the festivities began, Illyra planned to take her own journey, a solitary walk through the neighborhood, an ode to the freedom her grandmother had once cherished. Illyra's room was awash in the soft light of the setting sun. She paused beside a small wooden table where a weather journal lay open, pages filled with faded ink and delicate sketches of sea creatures and coastal flowers. Tracing her finger over a drawing of a silver hawk, she smiled. The hawk was said to be the guardian of the cove, watching silently from the palm trees as the tides ebbed and flowed. With a gentle sigh, Illyra rose and crossed the room to the kitchen. She poured herself a tall glass of freshly squeezed lemonade, the sharp scent of citrus mingling with the salty tang of the sea air drifting in through the open window. As she sipped, she glanced out toward the porch, where a calico cat lounged lazily in the fading light, its fur glowing like embers. "Ready for an adventure, Misso?" she murmured, kneeling to scratch behind the cat's ears. The cat purred softly, eyes half closed in contentment. Slipping into her worn leather sandals, Illyra stepped outside. The air was thick with the scents of pine and ocean spray. A soft breeze rustled the tall palm trees lining the street, their leaves whispering secrets of days gone by. As she walked down the front steps, her eyes caught sight of an elderly man sitting on a red rocking chair nearby. His face was etched with the lines of time, but his eyes sparkled with youthful curiosity. "Good evening, Illyra," he said with a warm smile. "Beautiful night for a walk, isn't it?" Illyra nodded, returning his smile. "It always is." He extended a hand, weathered but steady. "I'm Thomas. I used to wander these paths when I was about your age. Still do, when the tides call." Intrigued, Illyra took a seat beside him. "Do you believe in the legends of the Cove? The Hawk Guardian, the magic of the boardwalk?" Thomas chuckled softly. "Whether legend or truth, the stories carry the spirit of this place. Sometimes, when you least expect it, the magic reveals itself." The sun dipped lower, and the sky deepened to a rich purple. Lanterns began to flicker along the boardwalk, casting pools of golden light on the wooden planks. Illyra felt a stirring within, a call to move forward, to discover what secrets the evening might hold. Rising, She took one last look at the glowing cottage behind her, the warm light spilling from the windows like an embrace. "Thank you, Thomas, for the company and the stories." He tipped his hat. "May your walk be filled with wonder." With a heart full of anticipation, Illyra stepped onto the boardwalk, the cool ocean breeze tugging at her hair. Around her, the sounds of laughter and music mingled with the rhythmic crashing of waves. Children ran past, their silhouettes flickering like shadows under the lantern light, while couples strolled hand in hand, sharing whispered dreams. As she walked, Illyra's mind drifted to the silver hawk her grandmother had spoken of, the silent watcher perched among the palm leaves, guiding those who dared to listen. Tonight, she vowed, she would pay attention. She would open her senses to the unseen, embrace the stories whispered by the sea and sky. The path ahead was bathed in mystery and possibility. And Illyra was ready. The lanterns lining the boardwalk flickered gently, casting a soft glow that wove patterns across the wooden planks like threads of golden silk. Illyra's footsteps fell into rhythm with the distant song of the waves, each step pulling her deeper into the heart of Seaborne Cove's summer night. Around her, the crowd hummed with life, vendors hawking hand-woven trinkets, musicians coaxing melodies from strings and reeds, and children chasing fireflies whose light shimmered like tiny stars. Caught in mid-flight, the air was thick with the mingled scents of salted air, roasting corn, and the sweet perfume of night-blooming jasmine spilling from nearby gardens. Illyra paused beside a stall draped in blue and silver fabrics, where an old woman named Marina displayed delicate glass bottles filled with shimmering liquids. The liquids caught the lantern light and scattered it into sparkling rainbows that danced across the crowd. Marina's eyes met Illyra's with a knowing gleam. "Looking for something special, dear?" Illyra smiled, drawn to the mysterious aura surrounding the woman. "Maybe." "What do these bottles hold?" "Essences of the sea and sky," Marina replied softly. "A drop of moonlight, a whisper of ocean breeze, the echo of a hawk's cry at dawn. Each one holds a story, waiting to be told." Intrigued, Illyra reached for a small vial that shimmered with a pale turquoise light. Marina smiled again, as if sharing a secret. "Take it with you," she said. "When the night deepens and your path seems unclear, the essence will guide you." Illyra tucked the vial safely into her satchel and continued along the boardwalk, the weight of the small bottle oddly comforting. As she wandered past clusters of chatting townsfolk and the laughter of children playing tag between stalls, a sudden gust of wind stirred the lantern flames, causing shadows to flicker and dance with unnatural urgency. The breeze carried a faint, haunting melody like the call of a distant songbird or the sigh of the sea. Illyra's heart quickened. She glanced upward, catching sight of a sleek silver hawk soaring silently above the rooftops, its wings catching the moonlight as it circled once, then vanished into the darkness. She remembered her grandmother's stories, how the hawk was the guardian of the cove, watching over those who respected the land and sea. Drawn forward by an invisible thread, Illyra found herself at the edge of the boardwalk where it met the shore. The beach was nearly deserted now, save for the flickering shadows of bonfires clustered in the distance. Near one fire, A group of strangers sat in a circle, their faces illuminated by flames that cast flickering gold and orange highlights. They were draped in colorful shawls and spoke in low, melodic voices. One of them, a tall man with eyes like polished amber, caught Illyra's gaze and gestured invitingly. "Join us," he said, voice smooth as the tide. "There is much to share under the moon's watch." Illyra hesitated for only a moment before stepping closer, feeling a warmth that seemed to seep from the fire and into her bones. The circle welcomed her, and she settled on a worn blanket beside a woman whose laughter was soft and musical, like a lullaby carried on the wind. "Have you heard the legend of the Whispering Tides?" the woman asked, eyes sparkling with mischief. Illyra shook her head, curiosity piqued. The woman smiled, tracing shapes in the sand with a slender finger. "Long ago," she began, "when the moon was young and the sea sang its first song, the tides held secrets, messages from the deep, whispers of forgotten dreams. Some say the tides still carry these whispers, for those who know how to listen." The amber-eyed man nodded in agreement. "But beware," he added, "for not all whispers bring comfort. Some carry warnings. And some, invitations to adventures beyond the edge of the world." Illyra's heart beat faster as the fire crackled, sparks flying upward like tiny stars breaking free. She looked down at the vial from Marina, feeling its cool weight. Was it more than just a trinket? A key to unlock those whispers? The group's voices softened, and the night seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly, a chill swept over the beach, and from the shadows, a figure emerged, a young boy, no more than 10, eyes wide with wonder and a secret too heavy for his years. "Illyra," he whispered urgently, "the tides are stirring. They brought something back. Something that should have stayed buried." The circle tensed, faces tightening as the boy's words sank in. Illyra felt a shiver run down her spine, the peaceful festival night turning suddenly mysterious, charged with the energy of stories waiting to unfold. Her adventure had only just begun. The boy's words echoed across the firelit beach, their weight heavy enough to silence the crackling flames and still the laughter of the festival that had moments before filled the air. Illyra's heart pounded, her eyes searching his face for answers, but the wide-eyed child only stared back with a mixture of fear and urgency. "What do you mean, something that should have stayed buried?" she asked softly, leaning closer. The boy swallowed hard, clutching a small, worn shell in his trembling hands. "I found this near the old shipwreck at the edge of the cove. It glows under the moon, and when I held it, I heard voices, whispers calling me." Illyra reached out, taking the shell gently. As her fingers brushed its cool surface, a faint blue light pulsed, as if breathing with its own life. The whispers, barely audible, teased the edges of her mind's soft, ancient words in a language long forgotten. The circle around the bonfire watched her closely, their faces etched with a mixture of concern and reverence. The amber-eyed man who introduced himself as Kalen spoke again. "The shipwreck has always been a place of mystery, avoided by many. Old legends say it's cursed, a resting place for a lost spirit bound by the tides. But recently, strange things have begun to happen: lights beneath the waves, voices in the wind, shadows moving where no shadow should be. Illyra felt a chill despite the fire's warmth. The peaceful seaside retreat she had come to know was suddenly laced with threads of a darker tapestry, one woven with ancient magic and secrets long buried beneath the waves. "We need to go there," Illyra said, her voice steady despite the rising storm of thoughts inside her. "Tonight. To see if the whispers are real." Marina, who had been quietly watching from the edge of the circle, nodded gravely. "The essence you carry is a beacon. It can guide and protect you. But be warned, what lies beneath is both a gift and a test." The young woman who had told the legend smiled encouragingly. "We will accompany you as best we can from the shore. But the sea has its own will. You must trust your instincts." The group quickly gathered supplies: lanterns, ropes, a small boat tethered nearby, and old maps sketched on parchment. Illyra's fingers closed tightly around the glowing shell as she prepared herself to step into the unknown. As they made their way down to the rocky shore, the festival's distant music faded into the night, replaced by the rhythmic crashing of waves against jagged stones. The moon hung high, casting a silver path across the water, beckoning them forward. Kaelin helped Illyra into the boat, its wood creaking softly under their weight. The boat was old but sturdy, painted a faded seafoam green with a carved hawk emblem on its prow. As they pushed off from the shore, the cool spray of ocean mist kissed their faces, mingling with the salty breeze. The journey toward the shipwreck was eerily quiet. Only the oars dipping into the water and the distant call of night birds punctuated the darkness. Illyra's mind raced with questions: what had stirred beneath the waves? Why now? And what part was she to play in this unfolding story? As they neared the wreck, the water around them began to shimmer unnaturally. Pale blue light danced beneath the surface, illuminating the skeletal remains of the ship's hull and casting ghostly shadows on the waves. Suddenly, the glowing shell in Illyra's hand pulsed brighter, warming her palm. The whispers grew louder, forming words she almost understood, urging her to look deeper. Peering over the edge of the boat, Illyra glimpsed shapes moving beneath the water, forms that were neither fish nor shadow, gliding gracefully in the moonlit depths. "Guardians," Marina whispered from the shore, her voice barely audible across the water. "Protectors of the Cove's secrets." A sudden splash jolted Illyra from her reverie. The water beside the boat erupted as a figure emerged, a woman with flowing hair like seaweed, eyes shimmering like pearls, and skin that glistened with droplets of salt water. "Illyra," the figure said, her voice melodic yet commanding, "you have been chosen to bridge the worlds above and below. The tides have whispered your name for generations." Illyra's breath caught. The stories her grandmother told, the legends shared around fires, were they true? Was she really part of something greater than herself? The Sea Maiden extended a hand, and Illyra hesitated only a moment before grasping it. A rush of cold energy surged through her, connecting her to the pulse of the ocean and the ancient magic beneath. "Your journey has begun," the maiden said. but beware, the balance between land and sea is fragile. Forces seek to disrupt it, and shadows lurk where light fades. As the boat drifted back toward the shore, Illyra's thoughts swirled like the waves, questions, fears, and a newfound sense of purpose battling for dominance. The festival of tides continued behind them, unaware of the secrets awakened beneath the moonlit waves. Illyra looked to the glowing shell in her hand, now dim but still warm, and whispered, "I'm ready." The dawn broke gently over Seaborne Cove, washing the town in a soft golden light that banished the shadows of the night but could not erase the mysteries stirred beneath the waves. Illyra awoke in her cottage with the salty scent of the sea lingering in her hair and the glowing shell resting on her nightstand, faintly pulsing like a heartbeat. Her mind was restless, filled with memories of the sea maiden's words and the strange energy that had surged through her hand. The normal sounds of morning, the gulls calling overhead, waves crashing on the shore, the distant bustle of fishermen preparing their boats felt layered with something unseen, like whispers riding the breeze. Illyra dressed quickly and stepped outside, the wooden floorboards creaking underfoot. The town was waking up, but something had shifted. There was an undercurrent of unease threading through the friendly greetings and familiar faces. As she walked towards the boardwalk, she noticed subtle changes, a chill in the air despite the warming sun, shadows that seemed too long and too sharp for the morning light, and the quiet murmur of conversations dipping to hushed tones as she passed. At the bakery, she found Marina arranging fresh bread and pastries. The old woman looked up and smiled, but her eyes were serious. "You have felt it too," Marina said, wiping her hands on her apron. "The sea speaks louder now. The balance is tipping." Illyra nodded. "Last night, by the shipwreck, the sea maiden spoke of forces that want to disrupt the balance." Marina's gaze darkened. "Yes. There are those who hunger for the power locked beneath the tides. Ancient spirits, restless and vengeful, stirred from their slumber." Illyra's thoughts drifted to the amber-eyed man, Kalen, and the others who had gathered around the bonfire. She knew she needed to find them again. Following the scent of pine and the soft rustle of leaves, Illyra found Kalen near the old lighthouse, a towering relic perched on the cliffs overlooking the sea. "Good morning," he greeted, voice low but steady. "We've been expecting you." Beside him stood the woman with the musical laughter, now revealed as Lyra, the keeper of stories and songs passed through generations. "There is much to prepare," Lyra said. "The tides have awakened more than just whispers. Strange creatures have been seen near the cove, shapes slipping between the waves and shadows." Kalen produced a weathered map, etched with runes and symbols unfamiliar to Illyra. "This," he said, pointing to a spot deep beneath the cove, "is where the heart of the magic lies. We must protect it." Illyra studied the map, the glowing shell warm in her pocket as if urging her onward. Suddenly, a shadow flickered behind the lighthouse. A figure stepped into the light, a tall man cloaked in dark fabric, his eyes glinting with an unsettling intensity. "I've been watching," he said smoothly. "The tides have chosen well. But power like this attracts danger. Illyra's heart raced. Who are you? The man smiled thinly. Call me Malric. I seek what lies beneath the waves. The magic of Seaborne Cove will be mine. Kaelin stepped forward, protective and resolute. You will not claim what does not belong to you. A tense silence hung between them as the sun climbed higher, casting sharp light on the unfolding conflict. Illyra felt the weight of her destiny settle over her like the morning mist. She was no longer just a wanderer. She was the bridge, the protector of the balance between sea and land. And the shadows were already rising. The salty wind whipped fiercely along the cliffs as Illyra, Kaelin, and Lyra hurried back toward the town center, the weight of Malric's threat burning fresh in their minds. The peaceful facade of Seaborne Cove had cracked, revealing a brewing storm of ancient powers clashing beneath the surface. As they reached the boardwalk, the town seemed caught between normalcy and unrest. Shops were closing early, fishermen hurried to secure their boats, whispers of the curse rippled through the air like an invisible current. Illyra's fingers tightened around the glowing shell in her pocket. It pulsed with a steady heartbeat, a reminder that the tide's magic was alive within her. She glanced at Kaelin. We have to act, she said firmly. If Malric is coming for the magic, we need to protect it. Kaelin nodded. But the Cove's magic is protected by trials, tests of heart, courage, and wisdom. Only one who proves worthy can wield it. Lyra placed a reassuring hand on Illyra's shoulder. Your grandmother was part of this legacy. It's now your turn. Suddenly, a chilling howl echoed from the nearby forest, a sound neither animal nor human. The hairs on Illyra's arms stood on end. We're not alone, Kaelin warned. The guardians are restless. From the shadows emerged ethereal figures, creatures made of swirling mist and light, their eyes glowing like stars. The first trial had begun. Without hesitation, Illyra stepped forward, feeling the sea's pulse synchronizing with her own heartbeat. The glowing shell in her hand blazed brightly, casting a protective light around her. The mist creatures circled, their forms shifting and flowing like the waves themselves. One approached, its voice a whisper, "Prove your worth, guardian of tides." Illyra closed her eyes, recalling the lessons of patience and kindness her grandmother had taught her. I am ready. The creatures tested her resolve. Visions of doubt, fear, and temptation flickered before her eyes. Shadows of failure tried to pull her under, but she held firm, anchored by the magic flowing through her. Hours seemed to pass in moments, until finally, the creatures parted, bowing their heads in respect. You have passed the first trial, their leader whispered. But the path is long, and darkness still looms. Exhausted but emboldened, Illyra returned to Kaelin and Lyra. We have little time, Kaelin said grimly. Malric's followers have already begun searching the shipwreck for the source of power. Illyra's eyes narrowed. Then we must hurry. The tides are counting on us. The three allies set out toward the shore once more, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon as the storm began to gather on the edge of the world. The sky had darkened to a deep indigo by the time Illyra, Kalin, and Lyra reached the rocky shoreline once again. The waves crashed relentlessly against jagged stones, as if warning them of the dangers lurking beneath the surface. A cold mist hung thick in the air, swirling around their ankles and carrying with it the scent of salt, ancient magic, and something darker, something foreboding. Illyra tightened her grip on the glowing shell nestled in her satchel. Its soft pulse quickened, as though reacting to the presence of unseen forces. "We're not alone," whispered Lyra, her voice tense. From the shadows emerged figures cloaked in dark, seaweed-like robes, their faces hidden beneath deep hoods. Malric's followers had come silent, deadly, and determined. Kalin drew a dagger, its blade shimmering with runes of protection. "We must hold them off while Illyra reaches the heart of the shipwreck." Illyra nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. The first wave of attackers surged forward like tidal breakers. Illyra's heart pounded as she invoked the essence's power, releasing a shimmering barrier of light that radiated outward, halting their advance. Kalin and Lyra fought fiercely, their movements a blend of skill and ancient magic. Kalin's dagger flashed, cutting through shadows, while Lyra whispered chants that called forth gusts of wind and crashing waves to push the attackers back. But the enemy was relentless. One assailant broke through the barrier, lunging toward Illyra. She barely dodged, feeling the chill of cold steel graze her arm. Pain flared sharp but brief, her resolve hardened. From her satchel, she drew the glowing shell and held it high. A brilliant light exploded, momentarily blinding friend and foe alike. In that fleeting moment, Illyra broke free, sprinting toward the sunken ship. Beneath the moon's silver gaze, she reached the shattered hull, its wooden timbers splintered but still radiating an eerie, pulsing glow. She placed her hands on the wood, the glowing shell resonating in her palm. Suddenly, a voice whispered inside her mind, soft, ancient, and filled with both warning and hope. "Guardian of tides, embrace your legacy. The sea remembers. The balance must be restored." Illyra closed her eyes, feeling the surge of magic flood her veins, the power of generations past flowing through her. But then a shadow loomed behind her, a cold breath of darkness. "Not so fast," hissed Malric, stepping from the shadows, eyes burning with greed. "You cannot control the tides, Illyra." "But I will." Their gazes locked, a battle not just of strength but of wills ignited beneath the stars. The night air thickened with tension as Illyra and Malric stood face to face beside the ancient shipwreck, their breaths visible in the cold mist swirling around them. The glow from Illyra's shell bathed the shattered timbers in a soft, ethereal light, but it was no match for the darkness radiating from Malric's eyes. "You underestimate the tides," Illyra said, her voice steady but fierce. "They are not yours to command." Malric sneered, raising his hand and summoning a swirling orb of shadowy water that crackled with malevolent energy. "I'll show you the true power beneath these waves." With a roar, the orb exploded, sending a cascade of icy water crashing towards Illyra. Instinctively, She lifted the glowing shell, conjuring a shimmering barrier of light that absorbed the attack but trembled under the force. Kaelin and Lyra emerged from the shadows, joining her side. Kaelin's dagger gleamed as he prepared to defend, while Lyra's hands wove intricate patterns, summoning gusts of wind to shield their ally. Malric laughed darkly. "You think your tricks can stop me? I have spent years preparing for this moment." Illyra felt the power inside her stirring, a tempest waiting to be unleashed. Closing her eyes, she reached deep within herself, summoning the ancient magic the Sea Maiden had spoken of. The glowing shell flared brilliantly, and the waters around them began to rise, swirling into a towering pillar of liquid light. Within it, shapes emerged, guardians of the sea, majestic and formidable, their forms shimmering like the surface of the ocean at dawn. Malric's eyes widened. Impossible. The guardians surged forward, their collective energy clashing with Malric's darkness in a spectacular dance of light and shadow. As the battle raged, Illyra felt a sudden sharp pain in her chest, a reminder that this fight was not only against an external foe but also an internal struggle to master the legacy she had inherited. Through the chaos, a voice whispered again in her mind, clearer now, "Trust the tides, trust yourself." Gathering her strength, Illyra extended her hand, sending a wave of pure energy crashing into Malric, forcing him back. But before she could press the advantage, Malric vanished into the mist, his parting words echoing ominously, "This is far from over, Guardian." As the mist settled and the sea returned to its calm rhythm, Kaelin approached Illyra, his face grave yet proud. "You have passed a great trial tonight. But many more await. The balance depends on you." Lyra smiled softly. "And we will stand with you, every step of the way." Illyra looked out across the moonlit waves, feeling both the weight of her destiny and the fire of hope burning within her. The journey to protect Seaborne Cove and the magic beneath the tides had only just begun. The sun rose hesitantly over Seaborne Cove, casting long shadows across the sleepy town as if warning of the turbulent days ahead. Illyra awoke with a sense of urgency, the memories of the previous night's clash still vivid, the power unleashed, the threat looming, and Malric's ominous words echoing in her mind. She knew that the battle beneath the moonlight was only the beginning. The tides whispered of a gathering storm, not only in the skies but within the hearts of those who dwelled in the town. Determined to prepare, Illyra sought out Kaelin and Lyra at the ancient lighthouse, their usual meeting place and a beacon of wisdom. "We need allies," Kaelin said grimly as Illyra entered. "The cove's magic is ancient and vast, but so is the darkness that seeks to claim it." Lyra nodded. "There are those who once protected this land, guardians bound by blood and oath. Their descendants still walk among us, hidden but watchful." Illyra's eyes lit with hope. "Where do we find them?" Before Kaelin could answer, a soft knock sounded at the door. A figure stepped into the room, a tall woman with striking silver hair and eyes that gleamed like molten gold. "I am Selene," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "A descendant of the Star Guardians, protectors of the balance between sky and sea." Kaelin bowed respectfully. We welcome you, Selene. Your presence strengthens our cause. Selene smiled faintly. The tides have called me home. The shadows encroach faster than we feared. As the group discussed their plans, an urgent message arrived. A young boy from the outskirts of town, breathless and wide-eyed. The fishermen have reported strange sightings near the shipwreck, he panted. Creatures, neither fish nor beast. They move with purpose, like hunters. Illyra felt a chill. Malric's forces were growing bolder. That night, the allies gathered on the beach, watching the moon's reflection ripple across the waves. Together, they forged a plan to protect the cove's heart. Illyra held the glowing shell, its pulse steady and strong. She felt the weight of her legacy, but also the strength of newfound friendship and unity. The storm was coming. But so was the fight. The nights in Seaborne Cove grew longer, heavy with whispers and unseen eyes watching from the darkness. Illyra found herself restless, haunted by the memory of Malric's piercing gaze and the shadowy forces gathering beneath the tides. The peaceful town was no longer a sanctuary but a battleground waiting to erupt. One evening, as the amber hues of sunset bled into twilight, Illyra met with Selene, Kaelin, and Lyra atop the cliffs overlooking the restless sea. The air was thick with salt and the scent of impending rain. We need to delve deeper into the history of the cove, Selene said, her voice steady but urgent. There are secrets in the past that hold the key to defeating Malric. Lyra nodded, pulling from her satchel an ancient, leather-bound tome. The cover was embossed with symbols of waves and stars intertwined, a testament to the unity between sea and sky. This book belonged to the original Guardians, Lyra explained. It speaks of the trials, the power, and the darkness that once threatened to consume the cove. Illyra traced her fingers over the worn pages, feeling a connection to the generations before her. As the group pored over the text, they uncovered tales of an ancient pact forged between the sea spirits and the star guardians, an agreement to maintain balance and protect the world from falling into chaos. But the tome also spoke of a betrayal, a guardian who sought to harness the tides for his own gain, unleashing a curse that fractured the pact and bound a sea spirit in eternal slumber beneath the shipwreck. Malric was not the first to hunger for power, but unlike his predecessors, he was more cunning and ruthless, fueled by a dark ambition that threatened to unravel the very fabric of the cove. As they deciphered the text, a sudden roar shattered the quiet night. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the sea churned violently, sending towering waves crashing against the cliffs. Illyra! Kaelin shouted, pointing toward the shore. The attack has begun. Rushing down the cliffs, the group found the town's defenses overwhelmed by Malric's shadowy minions, twisted creatures of water and darkness that slithered from the sea, attacking homes and people indiscriminately. Illyra's heart raced as she stepped into the fray, her shell glowing fiercely. She summoned a wave of light that pushed back the creatures, giving the townsfolk a chance to flee to safety. Amid the chaos, Illyra spotted Malric commanding his forces from the edge of the water, his dark aura pulsing with malevolent energy. "You will not stop me," he growled, eyes locked onto hers. The tides belong to me. Gathering her strength, Illyra called upon the ancient power flowing through her veins. The sea responded, sending a tempest that clashed with Malrik's darkness in a dazzling display of elemental fury. The battle raged through the night, light and shadow intertwining in a deadly dance. Illyra knew that to protect Seaborne Cove, she had to awaken the bound sea spirit beneath the shipwreck, a power that could tip the scales. But awakening such a force came with risks that could change everything. As dawn broke, Illyra stood resolute, ready to face whatever trials awaited. The true test was just beginning. The aftermath of the night's fierce battle left Seaborne Cove scarred yet unbroken. Dawn's first light revealed the damaged broken boats, shattered windows, and a town draped in silence heavy with the weight of fear and hope. Illyra stood at the water's edge, the glowing shell pulsing steadily in her hand, as if reminding her of the task ahead. The sea whispered secrets only she could hear, urging her to awaken the ancient sea spirit bound beneath the sunken shipwreck. This power, once released, could restore balance but also carried dangers no one dared to predict. Kaelin and Lyra arrived, their faces grim but determined. "We've gathered what we need," Kaelin said, holding out a small satchel filled with herbs and stones etched with protective runes. "These will help shield you from the spirit's overwhelming power." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining with ancient knowledge. "You must understand, awakening the spirit is more than a ritual. It is a covenant. The spirit demands respect and sacrifice." Illyra nodded, steeling herself for what was to come. As the sun climbed, the three set out toward the shipwreck aboard a small boat painted with symbols of protection and hope. The waters were unnervingly calm, reflecting the sky like a mirror concealing the mysteries beneath. Reaching the wreck, Illyra lowered herself into the water, the glowing shell illuminating the dark depths. The broken timbers creaked softly, and ancient coral clung to the wood like jewels. Beneath the surface, she found a cavern etched with glowing runes, the gateway to the spirit's resting place. Chanting words taught by Lyra, Illyra placed the shell at the center of the runes. The water around her began to shimmer and pulse with energy. Suddenly, the sea spirit awoke, a colossal figure made of swirling water and light, its eyes deep pools of endless wisdom and sorrow. "I am Lyriel," the spirit's voice echoed in her mind. "Bound by oath, waiting for the one who bears the shell to free me." Illyra bowed her head in respect. "I seek to restore balance, to protect the cove from darkness." Lyriel's gaze softened. "The balance was broken long ago, by greed and betrayal. To restore it, a price must be paid." A surge of energy coursed through Illyra's body, linking her life force to Lyriel's essence. "You will share my burden," the spirit warned. "Your soul and the tides will be forever entwined. Your path will be perilous." Illyra accepted, feeling the ancient magic weave into her very being. Suddenly, a dark shadow crept through the water. Malrik, wielding stolen fragments of forbidden magic, surged toward them with malevolent fury. The battle beneath the waves was swift and fierce. Illyra, empowered by Lyriel's essence, conjured torrents of water and shields of light. Malric countered with swirling darkness, threatening to engulf them both. With a final surge, Illyra unleashed the full force of the awakened spirit, banishing Malric to the depths with a roar that shook the sea itself. Exhausted but victorious, Illyra and her companions returned to the surface. The town greeted them with cautious hope, the dawn of a new era dawning with the rising sun. Illyra knew her journey was far from over. The bond with Lyriel marked the beginning of a deeper connection and greater challenges to come. But for now, Seaborne Cove was safe, held by the tides and a guardian who had embraced her destiny. Seaborne Cove basked in the fragile peace that followed Illyra's triumphant battle beneath the waves. The townsfolk tentatively resumed their daily lives, but whispers of the recent chaos lingered in every corner, questions unanswered, and shadows lurking just beyond the glow of lantern light. Illyra felt the weight of her new bond with Lyriel, the sea spirit, as an ever-present hum within her, sometimes a soothing tide, other times a restless current pulling her toward unknown depths. One evening, while wandering along the cliffs, Illyra encountered an old friend from her childhood, Myra, a gifted healer who had returned to the cove after years away. "Myra," Illyra greeted warmly. "It's good to see you." Myra smiled, but her eyes were clouded with concern. "Illyra, the peace here feels like a thin veil. I've sensed a darkness stirring beneath the surface, something older and more cunning than Malric." Intrigued and alarmed, Illyra invited Myra to meet Kaelin and Lyra. Together, the four delved into the ancient texts Lyra possessed, uncovering forgotten chapters that spoke of the Abyssal Pact, a dark alliance forged long ago between sea spirits and shadow entities that once threatened the balance. According to the texts, the pact had been sealed by the first guardians but left behind remnants, echoes of power that could awaken if the wrong hands reached them. As they pieced together the puzzle, strange events began to unfold around the cove, fishermen disappearing, eerie lights flickering beneath the water at night, and unsettling dreams shared among the townsfolk. Illyra's connection to Lyriel deepened, granting her visions of an ancient underwater temple where the remnants of the Abyssal Pact were said to be hidden. Realizing the urgency, the group prepared for a journey beneath the waves to the temple, a perilous expedition that could reveal truths vital to protecting the cove. As they equipped themselves with enchanted gear and protective charms, Illyra felt a surge of determination. "We've come so far," she said. "But the real challenge begins now." The ocean awaited, vast and mysterious, holding secrets that could either save or doom them all. The ocean's depths stretched endlessly beneath Illyra as she and her companions descended toward the ancient underwater temple, a place whispered of only in legends and old tales. The air outside had been replaced by the quiet pressure of the sea, muffling all but the steady rhythm of their breathing and the pulse of magic coursing through Illyra's veins. Lyriel's presence was a comforting glow within her soul, guiding her steps and illuminating the path through darkened coral halls adorned with runes older than time itself. Each glyph seemed to hum with energy, telling stories of guardians past, battles won and lost, and the sacred oath to protect the balance of sea and land. As they ventured deeper, shadows flickered, remnants of the Abyssal Pact's dark influence, restless and malevolent. The walls pulsed with a sinister energy that threatened to swallow the light they carried. Suddenly, the cavern opened into a vast chamber where a swirling vortex of shadow and water awaited, an ancient prison holding the abyssal darkness at bay. Malric appeared, drawn by the power of the awakening temple, his eyes blazing with desperation and fury. "You think you can seal the darkness again?" he snarled. "This power is mine." Illyra stepped forward, her hand glowing with the combined magic of Lyriel and the guardians before her. "This power is the tide's," she declared. "And the tide protects those who honor its balance." A titanic battle ensued, light clashing against shadow in waves that shook the temple's foundations. Illyra summoned every ounce of strength and wisdom gained on her journey, the lessons of courage, sacrifice, and unity echoing through her spirit. With a final, resounding surge, Illyra channeled the sea spirit's essence into a radiant beacon that engulfed Malric, binding him within the swirling prison of the abyssal darkness. Silence fell. The darkness was sealed once more, the temple's runes glowing with renewed vigor. The balance was restored for now. Emerging from the depths, Illyra and her companions were greeted by the first light of dawn breaking over Seaborne Cove, a new beginning. The townsfolk celebrated the return of peace, their hearts lighter, their spirits hopeful. Illyra knew the journey had changed her irrevocably. Bound forever to the tides, she embraced her role as guardian with humility and resolve. The legacy of the guardians would live on through her. Title: The Tides of Seaborne Cove, A Guardian's Awakening. Description: In the peaceful coastal town of Seaborne Cove, Illyra Finn inherits a legacy tied to the ancient magic of the sea. When dark forces led by the ruthless Malric threaten to disrupt the balance between land and ocean, Illyra must embrace her destiny as the guardian of tides. Guided by mystical allies and bound by a powerful sea spirit, she embarks on a perilous journey beneath moonlit waves and forgotten temples. Facing trials of courage, sacrifice, and ancient secrets, Illyra confronts darkness both within and without to protect her home. The Tides of Seaborne Cove is an epic tale of magic, mystery, and the enduring power of hope.